The UFC returns to the Apex on May 31st to bring you the main event that we have all been waiting to see. Aaron Blanchfield takes on Macy Barber. Co-main event is pretty decent. Gamrot versus Leavitt, Klein. We got 11 fights scheduled right now. We already did have a cancellation. I'm going to go through every single one of these fights. I'm going to give you my early pick, my early lean. This is before extensive tape study, before all the boxes are checked. These are just my initial thoughts about the matchups based on what we know about each and every fighter. So, before we get into this breakdown, I'm going to go and recap it. It's an Apex card, and as you may have known, I went to the Apex card last week. So, I might be an Apex expert at this point. I did get a nice little perspective as to what these fighters deal with at the Apex. Sometimes the vibes are pretty low. If a fight's going to be boring, there's nobody there booing, so they're probably just going to stick to being boring. If they're going in there slugging it out, the Apex is pretty small, so the action is going to be there. So there is some things that I did learn while I was at the Apex. If you want to check out the vlog, I'll throw a little card up at the top. You can go check that out. It's been posted already. I give the whole vlog and a review of the Apex as a fan experience. But I did get some things from going to the Apex as far as what I could take into the handicapping when we're at the Apex. Last week, I didn't make enough money on my my official bets on UFC Vegas 106 to pay for that Apex ticket because we were only up 0.37 units. Which, it's better than losing, but we didn't really make much. We did have a terrible read on Tainara Lisboa. That sucked. Jared Gordon got it done. Luana Pinheiro plus 3.5. I would play almost all these props again, but none of them hit. Denise Gomes sub. She got her KO. Arosa sub. Costa just didn't want to grapple with it. Carlos Hernandez probably wouldn't play that again. He looked terrible. And Myron Santos KO probably wouldn't play that again. So maybe I take that back because that fight was super boring. We did hit some nice unders. And overall, plus 0.37 units on the straight bets. And the props, the DFS was a straight up wash. So pretty much we just went there as a fan because we didn't lose money, but we didn't really make any money. And sometimes that happens in this game. In this game, you can't win every week, but if you're going to be a profitable sometimes, or at least if you're going to make a little bit of profit, you got to be happy about it because you didn't lose. So overall, last week we went plus 0.37 units of net profit, improving our total to 38.81 units in 2025. We are 9 out of the last 10 9 of the last 10 cards have been profitable. The only one that wasn't was UFC Des Moines. So as long as we keep stacking these wins, we are going to end up in the end of the year pretty nicely. If you want to take a look at the overall results, they're on the screen right now. I'm going to take myself off the screen so you can see the whole thing. But it's got everything on here. I always like to be transparent. We got net win-loss, sportsbook, DFS, total bets, units bet, units return, ROI, and average bet right there. So you could take a look at that if you want to. I just like to throw that on there because some people like to see results, and I am willing to give them because I am confident in my bets, and I would like to be transparent with everybody. So go ahead and check those out. But I think it's time to get into the breakdown. We got some early picks to go through. First fight of the night looks like Ryan Dos Santos, a.k.a. Rayanne Amanda, a.k.a. the girl that lost to Puja Tomar. So right there, we should just take a step back, right? And I actually bet on Puja Tomar in that fight. It wasn't a big bet, but Puja was like plus 300 something, maybe plus 285, something like that. And it was a very close fight. So did Rayanne Amanda get robbed? Possibly, but it was also a close fight. So there's no reason she should have been that big of a favorite. And Puja Tomar as the big underdog cashed for us. Alice Ardelean, 9-7, professional record. I'm not really sure why she's in the UFC. I guess maybe just because she has some sort of following on TikTok or whatever. I don't know who's watching her content, but it's out there. 2-0, or 0-2, not 2-0. 0-2 in the UFC. Both fights have been fairly close, though. You got to give that to her. I mean, she's a girl that's going to walk forward. She's going to be in your face. She's going to take some shots. She's going to be pushing the action. She can maybe get a couple takedowns. I don't think her grappling is amazing, but she does have some some weight in the backside to get you down to the ground and hold you down there to where she's got a little bit more thickness to her. Rayanne Amanda, on the other hand, is going to be an inch shorter, and I don't think she's as thick as Alice Ardelean. So maybe there's a little bit of a physicality advantage for Alice Ardelean in this one, but overall striking, I think Rayanne Amanda is going to be the much cleaner striker. But as I said, Alice Ardelean tends to just walk forward and create chaos, and maybe Rayanne Amanda doesn't like that forward pressure. Maybe she starts to get tired. Maybe she starts to whiff on her shots, and Ardelean's getting her up in the clinch, and we could see something very, very greasy go into the scorecards. And then do you really want Rayanne Amanda at minus 340? I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, I think Rayanne Amanda's a decent fighter. She's decent. She's got decent skills, but I think she just struggles to put it together in a fight to where she can look like she's dominating it. And that does tend to happen in women's strawweight, because we saw last week with Tisha Pennington and Luana Pinheiro. Tisha Pennington was a minus 350, minus 400 favorite, and that fight came down to a very close decision. So I would not be laying the chalk on Rayanne Amanda at minus 340. If anything, I would look towards the Alice Ardelean, plus 3.5 or a decision ticket. But the problem is, Rayanne Amanda's grappling is probably good enough to submit Alice Ardelean, who I don't think has the best grappling. So maybe if she makes a mistake on the ground, Rayanne Amanda could maybe sneak in some type of submission. It would have to be opportunistic, but it definitely could happen. So that's how you would lose, the plus 3.5 or the decision bet. But overall, I think Rayanne Amanda is probably the better fighter, but I don't trust her at all at minus 340. So I'm going to take Rayanne Amanda for the early pick, but I'm not going to be touching that money line whatsoever. Let's move on. Markel Mederos taking on Balaji Oki. I remember both guys from the Contender Series. I liked both guys. I remember I bet on Balaji Oki as an underdog to that glory kickboxer, Dylan Salvador, and he knocked him out in round 1. And this dude is fast, he is explosive, he is strong, but he's a little bit reckless, and that can get you into some trouble, which it did in his last fight against Chris Duncan, where he was looking pretty good on the feet, hitting him, popping him with some shots, and then he wanted to grapple, and he shot some takedowns, got out of the first one, and then the second one, guillotine, put him to sleep. So how does he bounce back from that? I think he's the better athlete than Markel, but Markel is also a very good athlete. So I wouldn't say it's, a wide margin. Markel is probably more fluid striker. Markel has struggled with, some of the takedowns. He struggled in his last fight against Austin Hubbard with the takedowns, just the overall wet blanket type of game plan. And maybe that's what Balaji Oki comes in with. But I do think Mederos has a little bit better timing on his shots. If he can hit Oki with some nice counters, I think that could make him less or a little bit more hesitant to closing the pocket and just exchanging with these big explosive movements. I think Mederos' footwork is a little bit better. Mederos is the underdog, and I do think I'd probably tend to lean towards his way, but I believe in both guys, so it's not really a spot where I am looking to fade either guy. I believe in both guys' skills, so it's a very tough one for me. I'm just going to side with Mederos for the early pick. I got to look at it a little bit more. It could be a buy low on Balaji Oki after, blowing his load in round 1 and getting guillotined. So there is that aspect that, maybe the minus 175 could look like value. I don't really see it right now, but I got to look at it a little bit more. Markel Mederos as the underdog is going to be the early pick. I think he's a little bit cleaner of a striker. I think his footwork's a little bit better. And he's still young and improving, training at a good camp. So I'll take Markel Mederos for the early pick. Let's move on. Jordan Leavitt taking on Kurt Holobaugh. Interesting matchup here because my boy Kurt got, I don't want to say he got robbed, but it was a close fight. It came down to one round, and I think it was the second round. Actually, it might have been the first round. I think one of the judges gave 30-27 to Alexander Hernandez, but I thought Kurt Holobaugh won rounds 1 and 2, and then round 3 he got taken down and controlled for almost 4 minutes of the round. So we know the flaws in Kurt Holobaugh's game. It's going to be getting taken down and not having the ability to get back up to his feet. And at 38 years of age, it's not really like he's going to go and improve it. That's just who he is. And that's going to be a big thing here against Jordan Leavitt, because Jordan Leavitt is a guy that wants to be on the ground. But we also have to factor this in. Jordan Leavitt Is he going to be outclassed in the striking? Based on watching their fights, I would say Kurt Holobaugh is probably going to be the better striker here, and I think he's probably going to be able to win those exchanges. But when have we ever seen Jordan Leavitt like lose a fight just getting pieced up on the feet? Like he's never in the UFC has he lost a fight just getting pieced up on the feet and not having success getting the takedowns. Usually when he's losing, he's in some type of grappling match with a better grappler, Claudio Puelles, Chase Hooper. You know, he's not really losing fights. Paddy Pimblett, he's not losing fights to strikers where he can't get them down. And I don't think Jordan Leavitt's striking is terrible, but obviously I think Kurt Holobaugh's boxing is going to be a little bit more dangerous, probably going to have more ability to hurt Jordan Leavitt on the feet. But Jordan Leavitt's got some nice kicks from the outside. I think he's fairly strong, man. He's fairly strong, and he's still 29. So massive age advantage for Jordan Leavitt in this one. I'm going to side with Jordan Leavitt as the early pick. I like my boy Kurt Holobaugh. I just can't really trust him to stay on his feet. You know, his takedown defense is not good, and once he gets taken down, he doesn't really have much of a get-up game. He's going to throw up some submissions, but I don't think he's going to catch Jordan Leavitt with a submission, you know, from guard or anything like that. So I'll take Jordan Leavitt for the early pick in this one. Oban Elliott taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. Ramiz got me in his last fight. He got me because I wasn't heavy on Mickey Gall, but I was like, you know, Mickey looked pretty good in his striking against Basel. I think he comes in here, outstrikes Ramiz Brahimaj. I don't think he's going to get taken down and subbed by Brahimaj. Brahimaj's, I think every win that he had before that fight was by submission. So he was basically submission or bust. And Brahimaj knocks him out in round 1. So I guess there's a new aspect to Ramiz Brahimaj, but, you know, it was against Mickey Gall, who's not always been the most durable guy. So take that into account, but take it with a grain of salt. He's a big underdog here against Oban Elliott. And I was very shocked to see that Oban Elliott got thrown in an Apex card on the prelims against a guy that hasn't had the most success in the UFC. I thought they would give him a much better matchup because he's undefeated in the UFC. He's pretty solid on the mic, coming off a knockout win over Basil Hafez. Like, I was expecting bigger things. But here he is. Maybe they just want to get him another fight and see if he can get another. I don't even know why they give him this. Whatever. Overall, I think Oban Elliott's the better fighter here. He has struggled, though, with durability at times. Like, his 2 losses are both from taking big shots and getting knocked out. So that is a factor we got to take in, especially, you know, if Brahimaj has just got some rocks for hands now. Who knows? But overall, I think Oban's probably going to be able to chip him away from the outside with his kicks. He's got a nice jab, solid footwork, solid grappling. And Ramiz has always been somewhat of a gasser. I don't want to say just a complete death gasser because he usually makes it to a decision, but he's not a guy that's very effective after round 1. I think Oban Elliott's probably going to take that into account, probably be a little bit more cautious, probably try to wear on him a little bit in the first round, take over as the fight goes on, maybe get a late finish or win a decision. But I think Oban Elliott gets it done. I'll take Oban for the early pick. He'll probably be the official pick as well. I'll take him for the early pick, younger guy as well. Give me Oban. Women's MMA, bantamweight. Ketlen Vieira take on Macy Chiasson, and I don't know what to think about this one, boys, because Ketlen Vieira, she's such a weird fighter, bro. Like, she has okay striking, but she loses a lot of the striking to girls that you shouldn't be getting outstruck by, like fucking Miesha Tate. Macy Chiasson, I think, has solid striking, but at times it doesn't really look the best. She doesn't have the best takedown defense, but she's huge for the weight class. She has decent offensive wrestling, decent jiu-jitsu. She has like a decent overall game, but she's so big for the weight class. Like, she can get away with some stuff. Ketlen Vieira, very solid takedown defense. Not the best offensive wrestling, but I think she can maybe get takedowns on Macy Chiasson. We shall see. In the striking, I think Chiasson probably gets a slight edge in the striking. Overall wrestling, I'd give it to Vieira. As far as offensive goes and defensive goes, she's probably got the better overall wrestling. Pure grappling, I'd probably give it to Vieira as well. So it's a very tough one to call. I think, it's pretty closely lined. Vieira is a slight favorite. I would probably chalk it up to a 50-50. I'll take Ketlen Vieira for the early pick. Probably not one that I'm going to be super interested in and throwing some bets on, but we'll see if there's any nice props that we like. But for now, I'll take out Vieira for the early pick. She also just fought Kayla Harrison to a fairly decent decision, and maybe that's the trap, but I thought she looked okay against Kayla Harrison. I think she won one of the rounds. I think it was a 29-28. Now, she's a very physical girl as well, and maybe Chiasson's just not really up for that physicality. We'll see. But Ketlin Vieira is the early pick. Flyweights, we got Alan Nascimento taking on Jafel Filho, and who knows what Alan Nascimento has been up to. Probably going to look into that a little bit because he's been off since 2023 when he subbed Carlos Hernandez at the Apex in round 1. That was a long time ago. Carlos Hernandez. Fuck Carlos Hernandez, dude. Alan Nascimento, very good grappler, very strong for the weight class. Striking is very offensive. Doesn't really care what's coming back at him. If he gets stuck on the feet, you know, he has the ability to throw some volume, but he's going to be in there taking shots as well. Filho, I think, is probably a better overall striker when it comes to, pure hands, pure leg kicks, stuff like that. His grappling, I think, is solid, man. I think Filho's a solid grappler as well. And I don't think he's going to be outclassed by Nascimento. I don't think he's going to go in there and just get bullied by Nascimento in the grappling. So I think it's going to be a competitive fight on the ground. And I think on the feet, Filho might get the better of the exchanges, just having better defense and picking his shots nicely. So I'm going to take Jafel Filho for the early pick. I got to look at it more. But Alan Nascimento with the layoff, I don't like that. I hate taking guys on long layoffs unless I really think it's a matchup that works well for them. And I don't think this is a matchup where Nascimento is going to run away with it. So I'll take Filho for the early pick. Before we get into the main card, again, if you want all my bets, jump in the Homofied Picks premium membership. There's a link down in the description below. Use code HeyJive. Get yourself a 5-day free trial. We are positive 38.81 units in 2025. 9 of the last 10 UFC cards have been profitable, so hopefully we keep that going. If you need a sportsbook, jump on Wager Attack. It's available in all 50 states. You get a 200% free play bonus when you deposit. So if you deposit $100, you're going to get $200 in free play. And if you deposit that $100 in crypto, you're going to get $10 added to your cash bonus. It's available in all 50 states. Link down in the description below. Get yourself signed up on Wager Attack. Get another tool in the arsenal. They got thousands of props when it comes to UFC on Saturday. They got exact submission methods. They got everything. Everything. They got significant strikes as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on Wager Attack. Got to have that in your arsenal. You got to have multiple sports books so you can get the best lines out there. And if you want to support the channel, jump on ProfessorParlayShop.com. Use code YouTube, and you'll get $10 off your order. You're going to get one of these tees. Black tee, black and white, Professor Parlay merch, guaranteed to cash. If you're wearing this, your parlays, they will be cashed. I can guarantee you that. Just kidding. I can't guarantee you that. But you can at least feel like you got something backing you a little bit. Go get your merch, ProfessorParlayShop.com. Just to support the channel, use code YouTube. Get $10 off. There's a link down in the description below. Let's go to the main card. We got Zach Reese taking on Dusko Todorovic. Todorovic hasn't had the nicest run. Let's just say that he hasn't had many layups. He's fought some pretty tough competition, but he's also getting smoked by that competition. So it's not really like he's living up to these big names and putting on good fights. He's pretty much getting knocked out in round 1 or getting just mauled. So, and his wins are pretty low level. We know who Dusko is at this point. He had that knee injury against Christian Leroy Duncan. He was off for a while, came back against Mansour, and Mansour just put his head through the canvas. So it's been a rough ride for Dusko. Zach Reese, on the other hand, guy from the Contender Series who was undefeated at the time, looked pretty good. And then he got slammed by Cody Brundage, picked up a couple wins against some low-level guys, and then lost his last time out against Azamat Bakoyev, got his head slammed in the canvas. Were they back of the head shots? Probably. Zach Reese is big for the weight class, long, but he don't really use his length that well. Okay, he's going to throw big 1-2s. He's going to throw big body kicks, big head kicks. And if you try to take him down, you can take him down because he doesn't have much takedown defense. He's going to try to play from the guard. And that's where it gets a little bit dicey because how many times can you play from the guard at 185 where as you move up in competition, you're probably not going to be able to get submissions off your back. And that has been shown because he got put on his back against Cody Brundage, went for the triangle, got slammed. He got put on his back against Bekoyev and got his head pounded into the canvas and got TKO'd. So maybe there's going to be a little mental change for Zach Reese when it comes to that. We'll see. But he's a big favorite here, and I wouldn't really trust him. But I am going to pick him for the early pick because he does have big power on the feet, and I don't really know that Dusko is going to be able to knock it or be able to avoid that unless he gets an early takedown and is able to stay out of that submission threat from Zach Reese off his back. Dusko can wrestle a little bit. He can wrestle a little bit. He's not the greatest wrestler, but it doesn't really take much to take down Zach Reese. So there is a path for Dusko. Get him down to the ground, wear on him, land some ground and pound, stay safe from the submissions, and you could maybe win this. But I think I just got to trust Zach Reese for the early pick here. I'm going to look at it more. Big favorite. I'm not touching that money line. I can tell you that. Maybe I'll look for a prop, or maybe I'm going to look towards the Todorovic side when it comes to some type of bet. But we shall see. Zach Reese is the early pick, though. I think he should probably win. Dustin Jacoby taking on Bruno Lopes. I think it's Lopes. Could be Lopez. I think it's Lopes, though. Bruno cashed for us as a nice underdog his last time out against Magomed Gachiazulov, who is an absolute fraud. I think he was about a plus 220 underdog there in his UFC debut. Bruno was one of the, I don't want to say best, but he was one of the better prospects on the Contender Series. And then he got knocked out by Brandon Ribeiro, who's still in the UFC and doing some decent things. And then he fought on the Contender Series again after he got a win. And it was, I don't want to say a setup fight, but the guy he fought wasn't really that great. And he got a round 2 knockout. And then he was just super undervalued against a complete fraud against Gachiazulov. And he got a dub. It was a decision. He kind of just grinded on him. He did okay in the striking, but it was more of a push you up against the cage, wear on you, tire this guy out because he doesn't have good cardio and take over as the fight goes on. That's pretty much what he did. Is he going to be able to do that to Dustin Jacoby? I don't know, man. But Dustin Jacoby at this point in his career is somewhat of a wild card as well because he has such a great striking background where a couple years ago he would be able to style on Bruno Lopes and win this fight easily. But we've seen him start to slow down. We've seen his chin start to fail him. He's getting knocked down. He's getting knocked out. And the fight, his last fight against Vitor Petrino, he was pretty much losing that fight until he found a round 3 knockout with, 90 seconds left? And it was a nasty, nasty knockout. So there is still some pop in Dustin Jacoby's hands. And we've seen Bruno Lopes brutally knocked out in the Apex before. So Dustin Jacoby definitely live for a knockout here. Definitely live for a decision win just from, staying to the outside, using his footwork and chipping away and landing shots on Bruno Lopes, who's probably not as good of a striker as just Dustin Jacoby. But if Bruno Lopes can get on the inside, start to wear him down, kind of like the game plan he had against Magomed Gachiazulov, he can start to win a lot of minutes here. So this is a very tough one for me to call. Right now, I'm going to take Jacoby as the early pick, but I'm not super high on him at this point in his career, so I say that with a bit of hesitancy. Let's move on. Seokhyun Ko taking on Billy Ray Goff. The battle of the 3 name demons here. We got Billy. I love Billy, dude. I love Billy, and I'm really pissed that Gustafsson got pulled from this card. Maybe he'll get a rebooking because Jeremiah Wills pulled out, but these two are just like all action. Billy Ray Goff and Andreas Gustafsson are like 2 of the most action-packed fighters that you could watch at this level. Billy Ray is just going to walk forward with big boxing combinations, throw a ton of volume, a lot of leg kicks, ton of pressure, and he's going to try to walk through whatever you throw at him, and he's going to try to take your head off the entire fight. Even if he's tired, he's just going to battle through it, keep walking forward, maybe try to mix in some takedowns here and there, but he's not really the best grappler. I think he just kind of uses it to try to wear you down. But I love the way that he fights because he's going to go in there and fight for your money. Seokhyun Ko, on the other hand, Fought in the Contender Series last year. He was a massive underdog to this absolute specimen from Brazil. And this Brazilian guy was super fraudulent. But you could tell, from his frame, I think he had like a 6'7" or 6'9" wingspan. Like the dude had literal gorilla arms. He was built like a brick shithouse, but he just wasn't as effective after round one. So I think this Cavalcanti guy, I think he won round one, and then Seokhyun Ko just had more cardio, more technique, and was able to win the last 2 rounds. So he won the fight, got a contract as a huge underdog. Seokhyun Ko is a combat sambo guy who has fought some questionable competition, but I don't want to say it's like the worst I've ever seen, but it is a little bit questionable. And his opponent on the Contender Series, I could smell the fraud from a mile away. Like this guy had been beating up cans, and he's just huge. That's about it. He didn't really have much technique. He didn't have much cardio. He was just going in there nuking guys in round one. So I'm like, if Ko can survive round one, he's probably going to win the fight. And he did. It's a much different matchup because Billy Ray Goff has a lot of volume, a lot of cardio, and a lot of heart. And I think if he comes in here against Ko and is able to be there for all 15 minutes, he's probably going to be able to outwork Seokhyun Ko, and he's probably going to be able to put a lot of damage on Seokhyun Ko, who at times he's got decent striking. He's got some nice pull counters. Maybe he can hit Billy Ray Goff with some big stuff early. But as Billy starts to go downhill, these guys just start to wear down. I think Billy Ray Goff gets this one done. So I'm going to take him for the early pick. He is younger as well, still improving, almost 27. Ko is entering his prime, so we'll see how that works out. But I'll take Billy Ray Goff for the early pick. Co-main event, Mateusz Gamrot taking on Leavitt Klein. This is a very tough one for me to wrap my head around because I have been a huge Gamrot hater because I hate his fight style, but it is so effective. And Leavitt Klein, I've believed in this guy, but there's some performances where I'm like, I'm just waiting for him to show me a little bit more. And then I look at, who they've fought, and Leavitt Klein just hasn't really fought any grapplers. Like, the only grappler that comes to mind would be Thiago Moises, and Moises doesn't have the wrestling that Gamrot does. So we haven't really seen him against any really good wrestlers. So I don't know that his grappling has been tested that much. And I guess, he's been submitted by Nate Landwehr, but Landwehr's not a guy that's going in there shooting a bunch of takedowns. He's more of a guy that's going to wear you down and then pounce on a submission if it presents itself, and it did. But that was also a while ago. Klein's entering his prime here. He's 5'7", though, for the weight class. He's super short, but he's built like a fucking ox. And Gamrot, on the other hand, he's able to out-grapple most guys. And I thought the fight against Dan Hooker was very, very close. And I think it really just came down to a couple big shots that Dan Hooker landed that ultimately won him that fight. Early on, I think Gamrot's probably going to have some grappling success. But Gamrot does tend to slow down. He tends to slow down. And usually early on, if he gets hit, he's able to battle through it and it gets you down to the ground right away. But as the fight goes on and he starts to get hit a little bit more, it's tougher for him to get those takedowns and kind of make, him getting hit big not as known to the judges. So I think this fight probably goes to a competitive decision. If anything, Gamrot could maybe run away with it if he's just that much better of a grappler and Leavitt Klein hasn't faced this type of competition. I don't really see Klein just running away with it, though, because Gamrot's going to be there. Like, his striking isn't good, but he's got a solid jab. He knows how to kick from range. He knows how to move around the cage. And he's just going to be relentless with those takedowns. And Gamrot, let's not forget, this man beat Arman Tsarukyan. Was it the right decision? It's questionable, but he went to a very close decision with Arman Tsarukyan and got his hand raised. I'm going to take Mateusz Gamrot for the early pick. This is also could be a buy low spot on a guy that just took a loss after being on a 3-fight win streak. I think he had to fly all the way over to Australia, also to fight Dan Hooker. So that's a tough ask. I'm going to take Mateusz Gamrot for the early pick. Main event, Erin Blanchfield, Maycee Barber. I've been a Maycee Barber truther for her last few fights, man. And I was really wanting her to fight Rose Namajunas because I thought Macy's overall physicality and pace was going to make Rose uncomfortable. And I knew Macy Barber was probably going to be, a slight underdog to Rose, and I was going to really look to capitalize. But now this is just a different opponent, and Blanchfield just went to, a close fight with Rose, but I think she clearly won 3 out of the 5 rounds. The question here becomes, can Blanchfield get Macy Barber to the ground? Well, if you look at the takedown defense, probably, because Macy Barber's takedown defense hasn't looked very good. So you got to really expect Blanchfield to get takedowns here. And when she gets the takedowns, I think she's one of the best in the division at keeping girls on the ground and being effective with her top control with some ground and pound and looking for submissions. So I'll give the ground edge to Blanchfield. Can she get it there is kind of the question, but I think she probably can. Macy Barber has also had to deal with some health issues, I believe. And this is her first fight back from those health issues. I think she was in the hospital for don't quote me on this, but it was either multiple weeks or a couple months. They didn't know what was wrong with her. But hopefully she's back and healthy. If she comes in here as what she was when she fought in her last fight, I think she can make this very competitive and make it go to a close decision because I think she can outstrike Erin Blanchfield. Blanchfield doesn't have the best striking, but she is very aggressive and she throws a lot. So she's going to have a lot of activity out there, which looks nice to the judges. But if you know how to move and you know how to counter some of that, you can make her pay. Does Macy know how to do that? Somewhat, I think she does have moments where she knows how to counter, and she has proven that in some fights, especially against Amanda Ribas. But she can also get touched up as well. Overall, I think Blanchfield's probably the rightful favorite, but I know I've believed in Macy Barber, so it's tough for me to pull a trigger on fading Macy Barber at this point. I don't love the health situation. She's been inactive for over a year, so those are some question marks. I'm going to take Erin Blanchfield for the early pick, but got to look at it a little bit more, and maybe we'll chase a prop or something. We'll see. But Blanchfield's the early pick. That's gonna do it, boys. I appreciate y'all for watching the early picks video. We got no UFC on Saturday, so that sucks. So this video is gonna come out a lot earlier than the normal early picks video does. But we'll be back with the live streams throughout next week. The official picks video, best bets video. It's a Long Shots Only live show as well. I won't be at the Apex next Saturday, but I got some Apex insight. Hopefully we can take that and make some money. Appreciate y'all. Until next time, Hey Job Picks.